What can be said about the definition of the word enigma? Only that it is something difficult to describe, difficult to explain, and it has complicated significance, especially as we move to certain topics. Today I have the pleasure of welcoming a longtime friend and somebody I grew up with. We're going to be talking about the certain similarities of experiences that we share and how we gravitated to certain type of interests like music, as well as other influential parts of our life with our parents and with our surroundings. This is Cassie Gomez. Welcome back again to the Enigma episodes. Today I have somebody very special as well. I know her as my comadre, but her name, actually I'll let her introduce herself. How about you introduce yourself real quick, comadre?
All right. My name is Cassandra Denise, but depending on who you are, you either call me Cassie, Dennis, or Denise.
Dennis Jimenez, Denise.
Yep.
De todos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. Entonces, like I told you just a little bit ago, it's just a standard interview. We're going to be talking about just some specific subjects. I'm asking you a couple questions about your life, about growing up, and then depending on how you answer the questions, we'll go and roll into the subject. So, starting off, how about telling me like a little bit about yourself? So, growing up, a little bit about you as a kid, then growing up as a teenager, and then pretty much up until now. So how we start off with that?
Okay. So I was born in Los Angeles, so go Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
And then we actually moved when I was fairly young though, so I didn't grow up like my formative years really in LA.
Mm-hmm.
I still have family there, so we'd go back and visit and stuff, but when I was, I'm going to say either elementary or middle school, around there, my dad got a job out in Nevada in this little town called Fernley, and we came out here, and it was definitely like a culture shock because Fernley was tiny back then. Aparte de tiny, like there was like no Hispanics, so we joke around that we're like one of the first like Mexican families out there, but I mean compared to how it is now, back then it was like predominantly either Caucasian or like maybe like Native American, but it was super small, definitely different from having come from East LA, Boyle Heights.
Yeah, no, I definitely remember that because I mean, we got here in like 2000. Well, we got here in '99, but we settled in Reno first, and then in like 2000 or 2001, we moved to Fernley. So, yeah, no, I still remember that super small.
Yeah, so we got here around the same time. Yeah, like 2000, 2001. Yeah, but we didn't talk because you were a grade older than me. So.
Yeah. Okay, all right. So you get to Fernley. We're around the same time frame. We haven't met yet. All right. So run me through a little bit of your early years, elementary school and middle school.
So in elementary school, I mean, I did pretty well in school. Sad to say, like Hispanic parents, even though they don't have the same experience, they always instill that like the value of education. Mm-hmm. So my mom always told me, both my mom and my dad were like, and I'm sure you heard it a million times, estudia para que no estés como uno, which basically translates to like, study so you don't end up like us. She's like, we have to do this. Like, we don't have an option. But at least if you study, they felt that would give me an opportunity to have my options open. And they always like enforce like, not enforce, but like stress the importance of like being bilingual. They're like, it's so necessary. So growing up with kind of how I told you there wasn't like a very large Spanish speaking population out here, I would translate for my parents for everything, you know? Like in LA, you go to the grocery store, you go to the bank, even my teachers spoke Spanish, you know?
Yeah.
Out here, it was completely opposite. Like I remember being 8 years old and then my dad's friend being like, hey, can your daughter help me translate at the courthouse? And I was like, all right, I don't know these words, but I'll try my best.
Yeah, no, I remember those days. Oh my god.
So I think that helped me too. Like that, I feel like that contributed to like, you know, practicing my English and like expanding my vocabulary. Because a lot of people, when I talk to them, they're surprised that Spanish was my first language. But I'm like, no, like that's all my parents spoke, so it had to be.
Yeah, no, I get that ever so often too, because like even with meeting new people, like, because yeah, I mean you know me, you already see my complexion. I don't exactly look Mexican, pero también I also don't look like overly super other ethnicity insert here. Pero yeah, like I'll talk to them, and then as soon as I tell them, like, no, yeah, I'm Mexican, I speak Spanish, like, oh my god, we thought you were like Indian or Palestinian or something. I don't know. Like, cause you don't speak, you just speak English so well. Like, you don't even have an accent. It's like, nah, I got an accent. Just, aguanta pechos, aguanta pechos.
What the? Ahí está.
Right? So, yeah, so no, I get like, that.
Luego sale con confianza.
Exactly. Oh, my God. Entonces,
it's funny that you say that, because that's something too. Like me, primarily, I get confused for either Native American or Filipino.
Yeah?
Yeah, I get that a lot. One time I was working at the casinos, and this Filipino lady asked me, she was like, are you? And I was like, oh, no. And then I said, but my mom gets that a lot. Like, she looks like she's also Filipino.
Yeah.
But she understood my mom is. And she, like, got frustrated and was like, como diciendo, well, you are Filipino, you know, like, you're half. And then I was like, how do I explain it? And then I was like, all right, I am. Like,
oh my God. And then you got that whole lecture about, like, the same. I'm gonna do it like when we do it, like, ¿y cómo que how you gonna be a Mexican but you don't speak Spanish? Ay, no, you gotta talk to your parents again. You gotta talk to them.
Yeah,
they should have taught you. Te hubieran enseñado.
No, I definitely got it. No, they're like, qué bueno que hablas español. And it's so funny because, like, also I used to work at a warehouse, so then when I started speaking in Spanish, they'd look at me and they'd be like, ¿hablas español?
Yeah, right.
Sorpresa.
Oh my God. Pero a ver, let's go back real quick though. Okay, so there's always that one shock about speaking Spanish, right? Was obviously like our complexion and stuff. Pero let's go back to the whole thing about people knowing you by different names. Te digo, like I met you as Cassie.
Yes.
And then pues your middle name is Denise. And then even when my mom would mention you, because you know how close our parents are. Yeah. Every single time it'd be like, even she would ask me in, like, when we came back from school or we were hanging out, and she'd be like, andabas con Denise, and because I also got a cousin named Denise, and I'd be like mi prima Denise, and she's like, no, Cassie, Cassandra. This was before you were my comadre, pero
right, yeah.
Pero take us back to that one. Take us back to do with that. How is it that people know you as Cassie, and then how do people know you as Denise? Because, like I said, I've gotten that.
So with that, it's a common theme with like Mexicans, and I don't know if like other like Hispanic cultures, but to go by like your middle name. So, you know, typically like you'll be named like after someone or whatever the case may be, right? So like your first name is very like formal. Mm-hmm. And then you have like your middle name, and then like that's typically like the name that you'll go by. So for me, my name is Cassandra Denise. Well, if you ask my dad, it's Cassandra Denise, but he puts that flair at the end. But so growing up, actually, like I thought my name was Denise, to be honest with you, and like I even have like homework when I was in preschool, like filled out as Denise. And I recently told you this story, but it was funny, like realizing we kind of had like a similar situation.
Yeah.
When I was in kindergarten in LA, like I said, I'd go by Denise. And then when I went to first grade, they had a little table outside, and on that table was name tags. So, you had to grab your name and then get in line the very first day of school, right? So, like, there was a Denise, and this girl grabbed it, and I was like, okay, no sweat. Like, I'll just grab the next one, right? And I'm the last kid just circling this table, like a magic name tag was going to appear out of nowhere, right? And there's one name left on the table. And I was like circling the table, and the teacher comes up to me. She's like, what are you waiting for? And I was like, I can't find my name. And she's like, that's your name. Your name is Cassandra. And I was like, no, my name is Denise. And then she's like, no, you're Cassandra Denise. And then, oh my life changed. I had to ask my parents, they've been holding this for my whole life. Right. No, but I was just like, it was an interesting way to find out, because I was just so used to going by Denise. Like everybody, my aunts, my uncles, family, Denise, even like I said, my teachers. So it wasn't until like I was like Cassandra Denise. Yeah. So then I came to Fernley, and like I said, being like that, there wasn't as many like Hispanics out here. They just read like, when I got registered for school, and they were like Cassandra Denise. So they were like Cassandra. And then they started calling me Cassie actually when I was on the bus. And then the bus driver was like, do you go by Cassie? And I was just like this scared little like new kid, because I moved in the middle of like first grade. So I was just like, sure. I just like nodded my head, right? And then she's like, all right, baby, do you spell that with a Y or I-E? And then I was just like, I-E? So ever since then,
it just stuck.
I've been Cassie.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
No, that's funny. No, that's and it's funny because I still think back to it too. Like you're saying, like we both found out about very similar stories, like how much similarities we actually have with that. And like with mine, like if you remember me telling you, is like came to the States around the same time with my mom registering me in school. Like I still remember I was in class and I was trying to figure it out. I was like, man, it's like what's going on? But before that, my mom had gotten into like this argument with the lady at the office about registering my name. So I'm sitting there in the office, like even though I still didn't understand English, I still remember my mom sitting there talking to the lady, and the lady asked her like, what is his name? And my mom responded like, oh, it's Jonathan, it's Jonathan. And she's like, no, his name is Jose. And then my mom responded back again. It's like, no, his name is Jonathan. He's been called Jonathan his whole entire life. It's Jonathan. The lady turns back again. It's like, no, senora, his name is Jose. Do you see it? It's Jose. Okay, so it's Jose. So obviously my mom didn't speak that much English back then, so she's like, oh, okay, all right, I guess his name is Jose. so that's the first day, right? And then finally I get to class. It's still in like kindergarten. I'm sitting there, and I, like I said, I clearly remember the teacher. She's about to put us on an exercise, and she's sitting there having us together. It's like, all right, we're gonna go ahead and practice our names. And I'm sitting there trying to figure out how do I write my name, because I still didn't know how to spell. And I'm sitting there trying to figure out. But remember how early, like in kindergarten and first grade, like the name tapes, how they had you wear them around your neck, so that way you could identify yourself and identify everybody else, right?
Right.
So I still remember that, and I remember that we had put them in the back. So I'm sitting there getting everything, like trying to figure out my name, how to write it. And I'm like, oh crap, you know what? My name tag's in the back. Let me go ahead and grab it. So I stand up and I start heading to the back, and the teachers basically starts yelling at me to come sit down. Like, obviously I didn't understand. I'm just sitting there and just like, no, señora, I'm over here trying to es que mi nombre, my name. I was like, I don't know. I was like, no, Jose, you need to sit down. I was like, I know I'm Jose now, but how do you spell it? So I'm sitting there trying
I'm Jose now. I'm trying to help you.
Yeah,
help
exactly.
me.
So I'm sitting there trying to get to the back to it, and I finally get to the things, and I like right before I grab it, I do see it, and I say, oh, okay, that's how you spell it. But yeah, the teacher's already there in front of me. He's like, no, Jose, you need to sit down. No, you need to sit down now. And then now I'm just like, oh man, it's like, well, I guess that's how I spell it. It's like, but like, señor, I'm trying to learn how to spell my name. But what's funny is that like I tell other people, like I think I told you too, is like how funny it is how I put it, because I say Jose is my American name, and Jonathan is my Mexican name, just because that's how I've always been known. So that one's always like, it's always confusing to people because like, wait, you're Jose, but you're like, I don't get it. It's like you like, I don't know. It's hard to explain unless you're Mexican or you're under the same circumstances.
Yeah.
Oh my god. But okay. Oh my god. Entonces, so let's keep moving forward. So middle school. So let's talk about a little bit. Was growing up was same thing. You went through elementary school and then how was middle school for you? Let's talk about middle school for you.
All right. So middle school, well, like I think it was fifth grade. I got put into this program called GT. So I think in California they call it GATE, but it's the similar thing. It's like gifted and talented. Supposedly, like for us nerdy kids, it was like, yeah, it was what it was. It was like an extra like class that we would take. So then in middle school, I was still in that program, and then so a lot of my friends were Caucasian, because there wasn't like a lot of Hispanics, and let alone in that program. So in middle school, it was when like alternative music was really popular. So like my personal favorite band was Panic at the Disco. That was actually my first concert. So in listening to them, I kind of started listening more to the related bands, So like, of course, Fall Out Boy. Another favorite of mine was Cobra Starship. Then there was also just so many, like A Day to Remember, Hawthorne Heights, etc. And then with that, like, came dressing like what I call like my emo stage, my emo phase. So I was like, I I wanted to do like the scene hair. I don't know if you've seen it, but like back then, what was popular was like MySpace. So I really, really wanted to like do like the fringe cut, but my mom wouldn't let me. But I still I still dressed in all black, went to Hot Topic, did what I could with what I had.
The quintessential emo phase, like black polish, black nail polish, black shirts, black everything, pretty much.
Black Ertang, chipped black nail polish to to be exact, to go along with my angst.
So angsty, so emotional.
Yes.
Okay. Now, a ver, let's see. So, was there something in particular that like kind of drew you into like these bands, like, because like all of them, like, you wouldn't think, most of us, especially being Hispanos, being Mexican too, you really wouldn't think about it. But like, is there specific like lyrics or a specific way that they did music that kind of drew you into them to give you a little bit more like get you more interested in them?
I think like the lyrics, right? And then you were just kind of like you're just drawn to them, especially like the emotions that you were going through at the time. You just felt like this was a perfect way to like express them. And also I was drawn to it because like I've told you this before, like my dad introduced me to like rock en español when I was younger. So like I already had like a love for rock and things like that. And then also like my dad, when he first got to the US, he listened to a lot of like the classic rock. So like Metallica, Van Halen, all those, like that's like the English music that he would listen to when he got here. So it just kind of went hand in hand, and then it just fit perfectly. I was like, yeah, this is like a way to express myself, and I can like, if I wanted to, I could scream the lyrics, because some of them would be screaming. If I wanted to be sad, they had like their sad songs. So it just fit perfectly.
Yeah, that's funny because that you say that, because like even like we talked about before, like even like how your mom got you into, I mean, how your dad got you into rock en español. My mom got me into rock en español, and then like even then, like even before that, like a lot of the what do you call it, the songs and the music that I like to listen to was rock, and like just rock in general, just rock. So like Van Halen, AC/DC, Metallica, again, like all the main ones, But it's funny because I still remember that when I first got to the States, my parents actually had one of those CDs. It was called Cool Rock, and it had like all of the 80s metal hair band songs in there, like all the super
Yes.
romantic ones. You remember that one? That one was freaking, that I listened to that all the time, and I was always fight with my dad about that. Because he'd always be like, Mijo, why don't you listen to something else? Like, put on some Chalino, put on some Pancho Barraza, so like the quintessentials, oh, it's all Mexican. It's like, no, pa, no, soy rock and rollero. I'm rock and roll for life. and, and
Puro rock.
yeah, puro rock. So eventually, but let me go ahead and just say, like, well, that's basically our subject, like the emotional effect, kind of like the emo phase that kind of we went through. But I know we talked about this already too, and it's not that much of a shock, but I'll go ahead and dive a little bit more into it. Remember how I told you that there is that even in its own weird way, everybody goes through their own emotional phase during growing up, during that development. Like, although it doesn't seem all that similar, I went through my emotional phase. So just like the same way that you related to what do you call it, to the emo bands, to all of these bands, I did the same thing, but mine was with the underground hip hop. So with listening to Jedi Mind Tricks, Ill Bill, Army of the Pharaohs, Who Cares was definitely a big one. And then the more well-known one around people, like some people know him as Immoral Technique, but the artist, the person behind it is being Felipe Coronel, Immoral Technique. And then like that just went into a whole different rabbit hole in the same way. It's like the lyrics spoke to you like a way to be able to be emotionally connected. So it's crazy though, right?
Yeah, because I remember, like, now, like, we've talked about it more, but I remember the first time you told me about that, I was like, oh, wow, like, yeah, it was your emo face. Granted, it wasn't, like, the typical, emo face that everyone describes or talks about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not the first thing that you think of when you think of emo face, but I was like, oh, yeah, these artists that you're naming, like, their lyrics resonated with you in the same way that, these bands resonated with me. So I was like, when you told me, I was like, "Oh snap! You were a little emo kid too."
Yeah, see, right? And then,
you know, it just goes to show you like the broad spectrum of what it is. It's not just one genre. It's many things, and it's just how it hits you. Because yeah, I remember like seeing you with like your little headphones on the bus and like your little dark t-shirts también.
yeah, like just not even like nowhere near relation. Not even gonna say relation, like relatable or somewhat approachable. Because like I don't know, I don't know how you can tell me now, but you've known me for so many years. But if somebody new were to meet me, and obviously I don't really talk too much with that, is like I guess I have the male equivalent of resting bitch syndrome. So
yes.
but I got resting asshole syndrome. So resting
You know
asshole face
what?
syndrome.
Yeah, because I do remember that like before like we like talked because I knew who you were obviously because like I said there wasn't many Hispanics so we all know each other.
Yeah, that was already
So
there.
like my freshman year, we rode the same bus. So like I remember seeing you, but yeah, you do have RBF porque eres bien callado.
Right.
No, ya cuando te conocí, like
Exactly.
completely different. Like just I don't know when we started hanging out. I can't like pinpoint it exactly, but like it's just
We oh man, let's see. We started hanging out during Spanish club. Like
I think
after yeah, like during Spanish club a lot more.
yeah.
Because who was it? Because remember back then all I did was basically I had only done like 2 quinceañeras back then, like either 1 or 2.
You were just getting started in your career as a
Yeah,
chambelán.
right. I was still establishing my name as El Chambelán de Fernley because obviously
Barely making a name for yourself, Todavía no
yeah,
estabas perreando.
right, taking off the rest of taking over the previous generations, because even my brother Gabi, he was a chambelán for a couple of them, like everybody in the community, like damn, like just a whole change of like generations. So yeah, that's kind of when we started hanging out, and after we all realized that, like, oh man, like we've known each other for years. That's funny though, is that we had all actually known each other for years from being in Fernley from like 99 2000, but we didn't figure it out until later on when we're like, oh man, we're older. It's like, wait, who's your mom? Wait, we used to visit this people's house. Like, wait, who's your dad? Wait, he used to always come over. Wait, who's this person? Wait, that's your cousin? That's your sister? That's just
Wait, who's your deal?
Yeah,
Wait,
exactly.
you used to go
Right?
to church here? What?
Yeah, but that's just like the beautiful thing about a small community like that. They kind
Yeah.
of give us the opportunity to be able to connect and to be able to kind of establish those bonds early, and kind of work its own way. But like going back into like the music factor, it's funny that we were all kind of going in the same direction. We were all kind of going in the same direction. Like we were all going in the same direction, but on different tracks. Because eventually, like I'm pretty sure that we talked about this too, is that turning point where we all kind of started hanging out during Spanish club and everything, or like after the quinceañeras, and then like, all right, we kind of expanded a little bit more post our little angsty emo phase. Even though some of these bands, some of the artists that we listen to are still, they're still bangers, they still hit. But we started listening to all of the regular, well, not even the regular, the more considerably normal Mexican music, right? Que la banda, que merengue, que cumbia, and everything, just because of the people that we associated with too.
Yeah. Yeah, it was because I remember, like, I don't want to say like being like stuck in a bubble, but like I definitely listened to like more of what I really liked. Not a lot of Spanish music until I kind of started like hanging out with you guys in like the Spanish club, because like how you're talking about, like um kind of like a lot of our friends, have backgrounds where like they come from, El Rancho, or like um things like that. Then that's where I got introduced to it mostly, because like um I wasn't like I would listen to it, but not as much, growing up to some music. So like that definitely like broadened a little more of like what I would listen to. It was cool, like going from like dressing all black and like kind of this small emo phase to like getting to high school, and we're over here like going to like jaripeos and um, doing quinceañeras and like dances for Spanish club, um, and transitioning to that, I guess. Um, and now like you like put my playlist on shuffle and you don't know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, right. It's crazy. Like we actually have we were kind of like at that shifting point too, where like we've actually had that benefit of being able to access like a whole bunch of other different ranges of what was influential. Because I mean, like I said, think about it. I mean, we know everybody and anybody from a different range that are Hispanic, that are Hispano Latino, that would fall in the same category. Like probably not around the same time, but like in their own way. Like for you and me, an example is you going emo, the quintessential emo, me going the off track, the underground hip hop. Marco, Marco, him going the full on super punk mode. Dang, who else can we talk to? Shoot, I mean, a lot of the people that we know from Fern is like their quintessential emo phase. Like now thinking about it, was all of the romanticas from all of the bandas, like, and mainly some of the girls and then some of the guys too. And it's just like, what, like I start thinking about it, like just the tree just starts getting more branches and more branches, but like somehow we all ended up meeting together, and like in that one thing that kind of united us at the roots is the fact that, like, hey, we're Mexican, but we're all fairly different. We all have different tastes, but like our roots still come from the same tree. So that was always interesting. And then like I look at it like it all leads back in a lot of ways to how we, like I said, to how we're like, I don't know how like how we've had those opportunities, just how we have that opportunity in comparison to our parents.
Yeah, because I think we touched upon this like before, how like um being children of immigrants, we've been exposed to like going to like me that give me that, yeah, right, like
Yeah.
that saying where it's like we have our parents' music and we have the kind of like that connection to those emotions in that language, and then now growing up here, listening to the bands here and like growing up with that, we just have like this huge array of what we listen to. And I think we were talking about that where like you know Spanish is just so become so influential, like with like Despacito making like breaking records on YouTube,
Oh yeah.
and like Justin Bieber getting on that, and then like Drake coming out with like Mia, Cardi B, like Snow the Product, people like just rapping in Spanish because they know like you know
Yeah. No,
that
yeah.
you're gonna reach a huge audience. Not only are you gonna reach them like in their native countries, but you're also gonna reach people like us, like children of immigrants that like speak both languages and listen to both languages.
Exactly, and it's funny too. Is like how far reaching is that we've been influential too. And I was thinking about
Mm-hmm.
this too. Is that we didn't talk about it, but I was watching American Me. I was rewatching American Me after a good couple years, and who was it? The dude that plays the bad guy in Mortal Kombat, Shang Tsung. I don't know if you've seen Mortal Kombat, the original like 1990s one.
Mm,
He was
no.
well, watch it and then watch American Me, and then you're gonna be like, oh my god, that's the bad guy, but he's choloed out, and then you're gonna be like, what? I forgot the dude's name.
He's chilled out.
He's choloed out, bro. No, yeah, watch it, and then you'll be like super surprised too, because I was sitting there thinking, like, hey, isn't that freaking like that's Shang Tsung? That's the guy from Mortal Kombat. That's the bad dude. That's the bad dude that's like in every single like 90s action movie after this. But he came out in American Me, and he was hanging out with the what the representation was of La M in the movie. This is kind of like a biographical about La M, freaking Sur 13. But the fact is that it's weird because with a lot of the influence, we've influenced a whole bunch of ways, like with the Chicano culture. Like maybe us, not so much. We're super exposed to it, but we're aware of it. We're aware of it. We know that we've been a what do you call it? We've been one of the stepping stones to be able to establish that culture, because the lowriders is all over the place. It's not just the West Coast anymore. It's not just the Southern California. Like it's all over the place. But I don't know if you've seen this article. I bring up American Me and the actor that played Shang Tsung, because I was looking up a bunch of articles, and like there's a whole Chicano culture, like a Chicano subsection in Japan,
I was just about to ask you that.
right?
Yeah, yes, I've seen that.
Yeah, and it's crazy, and I brought that actually up in the first episode of the podcast, in Fronteras, and I brought it up a little bit, but I started thinking a little bit more after the fact, and then te digo, watching the was watching those segments, and then watching American Me, and then talking about all this, like before recording this, it's just like we've actually accepted and we've assimilated a lot more of the Asian cultures too, to kind of join us. Because if you really think about it, I mean, that's a lot of, like, besides the Filipinos, a lot of the Chinese, a lot of Japanese, Korean, like some Koreans is like we like in a small community like Fernley, like that's who we hung out with. It was just like the general minority. Like it sounds a little bit bad, but the general minority outside of the Caucasian people in there, it was mainly like all of the other minorities. So we were kind of like intermixed, and I started looking into that, and like it's a lot of the same. It's a lot of the same where there rarely exists a large gathering or a large amount of the same people of your culture. So we kind of gravitate together a little bit more with that.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because, like, I mean, back then, I don't know about now, but like, if you were to walk into the lunchroom, you saw us all, at our tables, but like near each other.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. So what else can we say about this whole situation? I mean, other than like it's kind of difficult to explain how far of a reach we actually have, how far of a reach that we're both influenced and influential to how we are right now. Because tell me a little bit more about you right now. How do you relate a little bit more and a little bit less to how music affected you when you were younger?
I mean, like I said, to this day, you push, shuffle on my playlist, and it's I still listen to like a wide array.
Hmm.
So it's opened me to like, hey, at least kind of like with food too, you know, at least try it. Y si no me gustó, at least I can say that I tried it, you know. So with music, it's like um, just giving an opportunity to different genres. It's I don't know. It's you know you have your music for working out, you have your music for like um, just lounging, and kind of like alternative music is kind of making a comeback right now. So like with I don't know if you've seen, but like Machine Gun Kelly, he's recently put out like music that's like um, similar to like what I listened to back when I was in middle school, and like I'm enjoying the shit out of it. I've been listening to it like on repeat. Not just Machine Gun Kelly though. There's like a lot more artists, but like um, keeping it alive.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, now that we're like adults and you know we have like our grown up jobs, you could say, you know, it's still a form of expression, you know, because like although our problems are different, like the emotions are still there. Um, and so it just accompanies me. We were talking about kind of like a form of expression now is that music, and like for me, right, like I have piercings, right?
Hmm.
They're not too crazy, but like that's another form of me to just kind of like express myself in my um, adulthood years, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Um, keeping it, keeping that side though. Um, but yeah, I mean, none of that has changed. Like it still helps, you know, during really tough times, or it still like pumps you up. Um, like I wanted to listen to more like hardcore, I guess you could say.
Hmm.
So I've just kind of been exploring my the music there. Um, like I said, by like giving it a chance and like seeing other genres, because I got introduced to it through like a friend. Um,
Yeah. No, it's a hard one to get into because like it's not. I wouldn't even say it's not even traditional. It's a little bit more. It's a lot less approachable. I'm gonna say it like that because I listen to hardcore. I listen to heavy metal, like the whole screamo thing, and it's a little hard to get into. But one of the bands that I can tell you that actually surprised me, that is actually headed by a Mexican American. He's Chicano too. Is what do you call it? Uh, Crap, I forgot its name. Coheed and Cambria.
uh,
Yeah, I don't remember even where I found that out at, but yeah, it's headed by it, but like they're still hardcore. They're late. They're like within like I think closing in on 20 years of almost making music, but yeah, that's a good one to start off with. Coheed and Cambria and what do you call it? Of Mice and Men, if you want to get started on that, but yeah.
yeah. Oh, really quick, like touching on that, right? Because we
Um,
were talking about how like it kind of crosses all like the culture wise. I remember too, like listening to music, and being like, oh, um, like is it really meant for me? You know, because like I'm Hispanic, and like there's not a lot of Hispanic artists, but there are like how you're talking about right now.
yeah,
So that just reminded me too, like there are like Hispanic artists that are like grew up like this and they're trying to get into this. Like you remember like Pierce Veil, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so like when I found out that like they were Mexican, I was like, oh snap, what?
yeah, right.
So I just remembered this too. Last time we talked about I talked to you about a music festival that I had gone to.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
the one in California where your dad, where you invited your dad and your mom, right?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Tell that story.
So remember it's called Tropicalia. So I saw it on Instagram and I saw like the artist and I was like, what? It was awesome because it was like it's just it just so perfectly like embodied like everything that like we're talking about, like every kind of music that we like grew up with, right? So like it had Los Tigres del Norte, but it also had like Cuco. It had you know, MC Magic, but Paquita La del Barrio was also gonna be there, you know?
Yeah,
So I thought it was just such a perfect festival for me because it was like I was like, this is me, dude. This is how like who I identify as, you know, this is all the music I listen to. Enanitos Verdes, you know, like Caifanes, like I'm telling you, like the music I grew up on. So like I saw that and I was like, you know what, like I want to share this with my parents because you know they're part of the reason I am who I am, obviously. So like it was funny because I bought the tickets and then I was like, hey, like because I had gone to EDC like months prior. So I was like, this is a music festival, you know, you go from stage to stage and like there's different artists. And they were like, oh yeah, we used to go to these all the time. Like well, back in LA, like when we were younger. And I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, you know, there's different artists, you know, different stages. You just go. And I was like, what? I never knew this about you guys.
Right.
I was like, no one thought to tell me again, like my first name. I'm like, but you know, that's crazy because like I'm what 27 and just showing you like, you know, I learned something new about them to this day.
Yeah.
Today I was like, I never knew that about you guys. And they were like, yeah, we used to do it. Yo pensando que it was like their first music festival experience.
Nah.
And I was like, con razón, con más razón I am the way that I am, you know?
Right. And
so
it's funny too how they influence us that much. Like not only like inadvertently kind of giving us our listening choices and giving us that option to be able to explore more, but then you realize it's like, damn, my mom, my dad were pretty fucking cool.
yeah, and it's so funny because like growing up you're like, oh man, I want to rebel from them. I'm gonna be my parents, I'm gonna grow, and then like you grow up and you're like, nah, they're dope. Like
yeah,
you know, like obviously we have like our flaws and stuff, but like I'm like, yo, I get it, you know, like right now being at my age, they already had like a 3-year-old, and I was like, I can't picture that. I see why they like, why I was the test subject, you know, being the oldest. Yeah. They were just kind of doing what they could. I was like, shoot, I'll probably do the same. Who knows?
Oh my god, no, yeah, it's funny because yeah, like even like with me, my dad. That's what surprised me too, because like you know my dad, you know most of my family, my mom, my parents, like the rancho and everything. And just to go on it real quick, like I was playing El Tri, and I just remember he was telling us like, what, like hey, you're listening to El Tri? And I'm like, yeah, but like what, like you know him, like all you listen to is rancho music. Pura banda. Is like, no, cuál? And he started naming off like 7 different names of like some other songs, and I was just like, ¿cómo? Like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah. And then pues my mom too, she's the one, like I tell you, she's the one that got me into rock en español. And then that's one of the things that we bonded over, me and her, was the fact that it's like she got me into it. So like you're saying, listen to Caifanes, Enanitos Verdes, Los Héroes del Silencio, like even though even though it's not really like rock en español, but it's like pop rock, Timbiriche, Mecano, and then my favorite one still to this day that everybody kind of knows but kind of not really knows is Dunkandu. That's like the top one that I listen to still. So it's like it's funny because like they're badass people. They're badass. We just never knew how awesome they were until we're like, oh shit, now we're adults. Now we understand that you guys were adults too, but pretty fucking cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny, dude. Like I'm telling you, this is us too. Like having known you for such a long time, like I discovered like new things about you too, because how you're talking about like your dad, you know.
Yeah.
And for me, I had like exact same experience, but like with the opposite genres. So like my dad, como te digo, like I've always seen him like as very like rockero, you know, whether it was English or Spanish. So like when he was listening to like banda or like naming stuff off, he's like, oh yeah, like I came across this TikTok video where it was like, if you listen to these songs, like, you know, it means you hung out with your dad or something. And I was like, ah, come on. Like, I didn't realize that, yeah, we listened to those songs too. It wasn't just rock. There was also like, you know, different ones. And my dad was like, I played that video for him, and my dad was just like, whoo.
Back in my
kind of like, you know that expression, like, what you kids know about this, you know?
Exactly.
So yeah, I had that like too, and it was just dope. It was dope seeing that, because like, you know, we feel like, oh man, no one understands us, no one's ever gone through this before, but like you're talking about, yeah, they did.
Yeah. Like
for my dad, he was connected to the music, same thing, like, and he didn't even understand it. Él, you know, he grew up in Mexico, and he was listening to like these rock songs. He just knew like, yo, they're dope, they sound dope, they make me feel dope. And that's how he actually like started to learn English too, was like, you know, back then there wasn't like Google or anything. So like he'd write down the lyrics or like obtain the lyrics somehow, go to the library, translate them, and like that helped his vocabulary. So just kind of, I mean, like, not to sound cheesy, but like it just shows you like the power of music, you know?
Yeah. No,
Um,
that's crazy. That's freaking crazy. And isn't yeah, it's the music honestly is I still think to this day is gonna be a great equalizer
yeah,
because it's both it can both shut things out, but it's gonna let a lot more people in, especially to what you're trying to show them. So
yeah. No, you nailed it. You know, it's an equalizer. It's definitely gonna like bond people, just straight up through the music. Like you don't have to understand the lyrics necessarily to enjoy it.
yeah.
Like like look at the music festivals. Look at um things like K-pop, right? Like
Oh
you
yeah.
have people like around the world, like just fascinated by this music or like that attend like these festivals, these concerts, etc. Because like you said, it's an equalizer.
Yeah.
It, it brings people together.
It does bring people together, and yeah, I don't know, I think that's actually a pretty good solid way to conclude this episode. But other than that, I mean, do you got any last things to say, any questions for me or anything? If not, we can go ahead and end it here.
Um, I think for now I'm good. Not that I can remember. I'll probably remember later. But
Hey, but I mean, if you do, I mean, I definitely always. I mean, I'm still in the starting phases of the podcast and everything. But no, I think we covered a pretty good genre, a pretty good level of music. And I think that's actually what this episode is going to be about is the emotional state of music and then how music has affected us. So, but yeah, if you think of any other topics or anything, I would definitely love to have you back, comadre.
love it, compadre. Likewise, likewise.
Ahora pues, so yeah, so we'll go ahead and sign it off right here. And again, thank you, Cassie, Denise, comadre, for coming through. And that's just not just to finish it off. That's not me just calling her comadre. We are godparents to one child, so
We are. We're
that,
the responsible party.
yeah.
So
So that
figure
one
that one out.
that's
Just kidding.
that's gonna be a funny episode when they talk about that later. So
Yeah.
all right. Well, then if that's it, then we'll go ahead and sign off. This has been the ESL sessions, the Enigma episode, and thanks for listening.